Today I want to talk about a plant that's often seen as a weed, but it actually has a bunch of beneficial ecological applications. And on an ecological farm or garden, it can have a positive role to play. Today I'm talking about American pokeweed. There is another species of pokeweed out in somewhere in Asia or India, but this species of pokeweed, Phytolacca americana, is actually native to North America. Even though a lot of people see it as, a common weed on roadsides, abandoned fields, and places like that, and oftentimes we try to rip it out of like gardens or near houses or anything like that, just because of some of its growth habits, right? Like it produces 7-foot tall plants. They can even get taller than that, and the berries can be bright purple in color, and they can easily stain clothing, cars, what have you. And thus actually at one point these berries were actually used as an ink, and this ink would start out purple, and then over time it would actually turn more of like a brownish color. And actually a lot of these poke berries were at one point farmers would feed them to chickens, but they also found out that if they were raising those birds for meat, it would actually produce an off flavor. From an ecological point of view, in terms of natural pest control and attracting pollinators and beneficial organisms, this plant can be pretty prominent, right? So it can attract a whole variety of birds, right? Not just chickens, but all kinds of different birds can go after the berries, right? Like the catbird, the mourning dove, mockingbird, bluebirds, blue jay, cardinal, robins, cedar waxwing, hummingbirds, and the red-bellied woodpecker, right? Now the hummingbird, of course, is going to go after the flowers, right? Going after the nectar, but all the other birds are going after the berries. And so a lot of these different birds, like the catbirds, robins, and so many of these others, also go after a bunch of insects, especially sometimes in their larval stages, when these insects are otherwise doing damage to different crops. So this can be a really great natural pest control from that perspective. And then some other animals, like mammals, can actually go after the berries as well, like the fox and possum. Possum, of course, can eat different types of insects and ticks even, a type of arachnid. And then the fox, of course, can help to keep in line different small mammal and rodent population, right? Think like mice, rats, those types of things. It can even eat some insects to a small extent. And then when we talk about different types of beneficial insects that are attracted to this plant, we're talking specifically, they are attracted to the blooming flowers of the pokeweed, right? According to Illinois Wildflowers, syrphid flies are attracted to the nectar and the pollen, and also are the halictid bees, right? So the halictid bees can be beneficial native pollinators, and the syrphid fly is really great for a lot of pest insects, especially aphids and some others. And it's also possible that we can continue to observe more ecological interactions, especially where the pollination of the flowers are concerned, right? There may be other insects out there as well that will find them attractive. And of course, I have more info on pokeweed down in the description, including the link to Illinois Wildflowers. And then I also have another one on that goes through some of the other animals that are attracted to the berries. So how I use pokeweed in the garden is I don't really grow it in the garden, right, so much, but I grow it on the edges. And that way, because the plant is fairly tall and it can kind of create a dense canopy, especially later in the season, so I tend to try to have pokeweed kind of grow off on its own on the edges of the garden, right? That way they can pull in more larger animals like birds, and they can be more ecologically beneficial in that way, but not taking up space that I need for growing plants, right? Because right now I pretty much need all the space I can get. I've also harvested the growing plants before they go to flower, and I've actually used them as a compost additive to help add a bunch of biomass and moisture, because the stalks seem to have a pretty high water content. So for now, that pretty much wraps up what I have to say about pokeweed, but it's a really cool plant that I will let grow on garden edges, but I will pull it out of growing beds of crops and stuff. And it's a good feeling for me to be able to appreciate and maintain a space for this native plant on the landscape where it can have so many beneficial ecological uses. So thank you so much for checking out this video, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.